morning, Upper School. Welcome to the senior speeches for the class of 2022. We ask that you please silence your devices before the event to honor today's speakers. Our first speaker today is Max Jamie. Max will be introduced by his grandmother, Carol Jamie.
When Max asked if I would introduce him today, I burst with happiness. I said, I don't speak well in front of crowds. I usually ad-lib or use a soundbite with a joke. So, hold on to your seats. This is the end of Book 1, Chapter 12. Dear Max, our sweet boy, this week, August 23rd, 2009, Sunday, you started kindergarten, learning everything that will make your life fun and full of adventure. Now we are ready for Book 2 and all that brings. Remember, the sun shines bright on your old Kentucky home. Hugs and love are passé. Friends, this is Maxwell Alexander Jamie.
That's good. Morning. I have no idea what I'm going to do with my life. At the time of writing this, I'm just finishing up the self and spirituality unit of my English class, and what I'm going to fill my future years with and what my purpose is has been on my mind. During this unit, there was one day where my classmates and I were fortunate enough to have Dr. McCrae come in and share some of his wisdom with us. He told us some of his experiences that helped him discover his purpose. I will not share the complete saga of Dr. McCrae's life right now, but I will say that his stories involve a man learning that he was happier living in the present than in the future, and who embraced opportunities to learn more about himself. It was reassuring for me to hear that at some point in time, our leader also did not know what he would do with his life. From this, I learned that it's okay if you don't know how to find your purpose, because if you live life one day at a time with the right mindset, then ultimately your purpose will find you. This made me think back to a time in my life when I truly did live one day at a time. From whenever I gained consciousness at around 5 until I was around 11, I only ever lived in the moment, and these were by far the happiest years of my life. I was never thinking about what I'd be doing in 5 years, 6 months, or even 2 weeks into the future. All I was probably thinking about was Mario Kart, Legos, bread, or climbing stuff. I was only concerned with what made me happy. School at this point in time was also more about learning to be a decent human being more than anything. I was learning basic right from wrong. So as a kid, my purpose was to enjoy life and learn things along the way. From my childhood experiences, I learned that one's purpose can be as simple as being a good person and pursuing things that bring joy into their life. When I think about my future, I think about my parents and the path that they took from being a kid in high school to where they are now. My mom was one of those people who pretty much had their life planned out before they graduated high school. She knew she wanted to go to med school by the time she was 16, so she did. She went to school for a lot of years, worked hard, and became what she always wanted to be. My mom's path to find her purpose was a direct one. My dad, on the other hand, took a much more circuitous route. He didn't know what he wanted to do in high school. Out of college, he had several different jobs, including busboy, sous chef, and personal trainer. Then, all of a sudden, in a bar in Florida. He came up with the idea to put soy sauce in bourbon barrels, and now he's an entrepreneur. He discovered a passion that brought joy into his life. It may have taken a little longer, but that doesn't matter because he still found it. From my parents, I learned that there's not a single path that everyone must follow on their journey toward meaning, but that there exist numerous different ways for one to discover their passions. Some people just know, and others need to take some time to figure it out, to learn more about themselves. Throughout most of my middle and high school years, I thought that my purpose in life was to progress through school, get a decent job out of college, start a family or something, and then retire and live out the rest of my days on the beach. Until after the second half of high school, I didn't really realize that there should be something more, something meaningful. How was I supposed to find a purpose if I didn't even know to search for it? This realization was a crucial step for me in my journey. Knowing that I didn't just want to live my life on autopilot, that I didn't just want to exist and not experience, that the end goal is meaningless if I don't enjoy my journey. My life pre-revelation was filled with unhealthy stress to perform in school and to get scores that I was almost always disappointed with. Now, while I'm still preparing for my future, it does not rule my mind as much. I've learned to make peace with the fact that everything will turn out the way it's supposed to, and that worrying about it doesn't help. I've learned a lot about myself while writing this speech. I figured out that it may take a while for me to discover my passion, that I'm at my happiest when I'm living in the moment, and that I need to experience life in order to find out more about myself. I think that the biggest lesson for me was the last one, so much so that if I could go back and give my past self some advice, I don't think I would tell him anything because he needs to figure that stuff out on his own. I still have no idea what I'm going to do with my life, but I think that's okay. Thank you.
Our second speaker today is Parker Adams. Parker will be introduced by his father, Gary Adams.
Parker has always been an inquisitive, rational, and curious young man. Unlike most small children, he did not keep us up through the night, and his third word was actually 3 syllables and not just one. No, it wasn't Dada. No, it wasn't Mama. It was actually basketball. Right before our very eyes, he went from being a toddler to a little person that we affectionately called Baby Man. Because from this little package came a rather advanced, critical thinking, robust communication, and the quest for truth. You all think he's serious now? He began his young life as the judge and jury of Hedgewick Way, appointed by all the parents in the neighborhood to get to the bottom of whatever madcap mayhem that was going on in the cul-de-sac that day. He stood at the ready to give the play-by-play of the day's events, laying out his unbiased truths and to set the record straight. I was proud of him then, and so proud now to present Parker Adams.
Morning. I had always been a predictable kid. I was pretty calm, and I wouldn't usually misbehave. The likely reason for this is because I usually didn't make errors without first considering the risk versus reward factor. So, if I messed up or misbehaved, it was a calculated risk that I was willing to take, and it was almost always justified in my eyes. But everything doesn't always happen according to plan. This may come as a shocker, but sometimes even I would make a miscalculation. First, I'd like to clarify that everyone in this room is familiar with the game Two Truths and a Lie. Well, if you haven't, then first let me help you lift the rock that you've been under, and then after that I'll explain the game. You simply tell two characteristics or events that are true to yourself, and then one thing that is a lie. This is an age-old game, or activity rather, that is typically used as a first day of school icebreaker in order for new students to become more familiar with their teachers and peers. Well, I've always hated this activity. For one, this activity rarely helps break the ice in a newly formed classroom, and it's awkward when people are wrong about which is the lie. And also, I've always had a tough time blatantly lying to my classmates, so I would accidentally tell 3 truths and 0 lies. I just prefer my way of the game better. It avoids the awkwardness, it gives your classmates a better opportunity to get to know you, and it gets rid of Jim Riley's favorite part, the lying. Nearly every day since I sat in the last row of this auditorium, I have thought about the innumerable ways in which I could share some wisdom, tell a story, or even express some part of my identity. And not once did I think I would use an activity that I mistakenly created. The first story may come as a surprise to most of you, but the truth is a 14-year-old girl broke my leg. Well, my brother, who was 2 years older than me, and was playing in an indoor soccer league at River City, not to be confused with River Road, and the age group his team was playing in is 10 to 14-year-olds. At the time, I was only 9 years old, but I was talented at the sport, and I was pretty big for my age, so I thought I'd be fine. We had played several games where I had been excelling on the field, but my excellent performance is eventually what led to my demise. We were beating a team by a handsome margin. It was simply a walk in the park. But at halftime, our goalie decided that he wanted to play in the field. I had also played goalie for most of my life, and without thinking twice, I volunteered to fill the position for the remainder of the game. Nearly 30 seconds after the half started, the ball came bouncing toward me with a burly 6'1" girl chasing behind it. I came to the conclusion that the only way out of getting kicked in the face was to try and clear the ball at the same time that she was shooting it. My 9-year-old concept of physics didn't know that energy as well as momentum would be conserved throughout this collision, making it an elastic collision, and therefore both of us flew backwards simultaneously after kicking the ball. The scenario ended up in my leg being turned 90 degrees due to the impact of the collision, a fracture spiraling around my tibia, and a goal being scored on our team. She definitely recovered faster than I did. That simple miscalculation led to years of uneven leg strength, knee pain, and more. The moral of the story is that girls are trouble. Another true story is the time I visited my friend at work. The day was July 5th, 2020, the summer between sophomore and junior year. With the sun shining and the day wide open, Kate Jones and I decided to have a COVID-safe lunch with my grandma and then visit our new friend at their new job. The plan was to pick up food by Eastern Parkway and head to my grandma's, and then rendezvous with our friend after lunch. All went well at lunch, and we made our way over to the Cherokee Golf Course, where our friend worked. In order to keep the identity of this individual anonymous, we will call him the Chosen One. Out front, we saw our friend gleaming to see us as we arrived, and because their day had been uneventful with little to no customers, the Chosen One decided to take us out on a ride around the golf course. While I was a little skeptical at first, I reluctantly agreed to go because I thought, what could go wrong? We had been going along our friend's typical routine and went around a pretty sharp turn a little bit too fast, where 2 of the wheels of the golf cart were slightly in the air, but we made it through that turn unscathed. After that turn, I told our driver to take it easy, as there were 3 of us in the golf cart, and my preference is to stay upright in vehicles. They agreed to tone down the driving, and we continued on our way around the golf course until we saw an uphill turnaround spot along the path. The Chosen One jokingly called this spot a donut opportunity, and we slowly went around the turn. After we successfully drove 180 degrees, completing our donut, we made our descent down the side of the hill. All this time, I had been calculating the physics in my head to ensure that we would not topple over, but it was at this time I had begun getting worried. We were picking up speed going down the side of the hill, and our friend decided to cut across the hill, which would slow down the vehicle, but now that put us at a steep sideways angle. As long as the chosen one did not suddenly turn one way or the other, everything would have been fine. Well, he ended up slightly turning left, and we all toppled over. After rapidly flipping the golf cart back over, I said, "Funny seeing you here," to the grass that now resided on the roof of the vehicle. As sundown approached, we made our way home, and everything went back to normal. Luckily, the worst things to come out of this were grass-stained clothes, a scar that will forever occupy my right forearm. Now, this is the point in the activity where the lie would typically begin. But given my honest tendencies, I would accidentally tell a third truth, so I will do as such. The truth is, I scattered 10 Jack Harlow song titles throughout this speech. If you had been paying close attention to some of my seemingly strange word choices, then there's a chance that you have already picked up on this. But on the off chance that you're daydreaming, thinking about all the homework you have to do before next period, or even sleeping on occasion as I would in stats class, you may not have noticed. You may be thinking, why Jack Harlow? And my reasoning for that would be ever since 9th grade, did you get that one? Ever since 9th grade, when I discovered him, I'd always liked his cool, calm, and collected flow. And some of the songs that I mentioned were River Road, Walk in the Park, Way Out, Eastern Parkway, Rendezvous, The Chosen One, Out Front, and Routine. I've always been a fan of music, and I thought, what better way to express this than sneaking it into my speech? Well, if you haven't taken anything away from my speech thus far, then I would like to leave you with some advice. First of all, it's okay to make errors. Not only do they create a learning experience, but they can also lead to fun stories. But if possible, make sure to calculate the repercussions ahead of time. Also, don't feel as though you need to lie to people to gain their acceptance. This is especially directed towards the seniors who, once May comes, will be going to college soon, and the freshmen who still have most of their high school career in front of them. Because it is hard for me to put some concepts into words, I will let the wise words of Elvis Presley stimulate your brain beyond repair. Truth is like the sun. You can shut it out for a time, but it ain't going away. Thank you.
Our final speaker today is Zacharia Nori. Zacharia will be introduced by Ms. Scharfenberger.
If I had $1 for every time Zacharia walked into my classroom over the last 4 years and asked to drop a class, I would be a rich woman. It has been so frequent that his mere physical presence at my door in between classes would have me immediately tell him to turn around and go away. Because no, Zacharia, you can't drop a class. It is mid-May. I hate to admit it, but I'm going to miss these interactions after he graduates, because those moments are what led to deeper conversations that allowed me to see the depth of Zacharia's curiosity, devotion to learning, and understanding better his drive and pursuit of excellence. I got to know the nuances and idiosyncrasies that make Zacharia who he is. Zacharia, you are a keen observer of your surroundings, and you have the facility to question, analyze, and synthesize both abstract and concrete ideas. The depth of your thought, writing, critical thinking, and problem solving are limitless. The world is truly yours for the taking, and I can't wait to see what you do with your potential. And just know, I will always be here to have a I need to drop a class conversation with you. Please welcome Zacharia Nori.
Hello. I am sure many of you in the room can understand the ever so tempting desire to strangle a child. Whether it be a disobedient little monster who continues to wreak havoc no matter how many directions you give it, or a whining, screaming little lump that completely ruins your shopping experience at Target as it writhes on the floor in disdain, you can't help but wonder what a good old-fashioned strangle might accomplish. With this in mind, I can say that I was, without a doubt, one of those demon children who so desperately needed that good old strangle. I was a fat baby with an insanely large head. Not one of those cute little bundles of joy swathed in baby blue blankets and regarded as the source of all joy. Rather, I was often the baby other parents would moan about, seeing as outside of my family, I was never really wanted anywhere. I would cry, poop, and grasp for food just as any baby would, but it seems I can never grasp the idea of just being still. Now at the age where I was to attend daycare and preschool, my parents recall the excitement on my face as I got ready to take on my own adventure. But it seems preschool was just not ready for me. You see, when you combine an ultra-energized, uncaring little beast with the draining learning experience of one's first school, the results just don't mix. I never followed directions, and I mean never. My classic move was trying to shut the door on my classmates as hard as possible whenever I was asked to be the door holder. And oftentimes I would achieve my goal in hearing a loud thump on the ground as a fellow 4-year-old fell to the ground in surprise. However, a move such as this would often be followed up with a Zacharia as the teacher yelled my name, her hand already moving my green happy face to the angry red one as she prepared the notes to my parents in her head. While this was all in good-spirited fun, this nefarious prank of mine came to an end one day as I noticed my classmate's fingers were still on the doorframe as he walked through. While the exact details of the event are fuzzy in my head, my parents can still describe the call they received that day, indicating I'd slammed the door onto my classmate's fingers with zero regret and ended up smashing his nail into the bed of his finger. I ended up getting kicked out of this first preschool, or asked not to come back if you want to get technical. Not really because of this incident alone, but rather because the teachers and caretakers just couldn't handle me anymore. I've low-key always wanted to get suspended or something from school just to see how it is, but I guess I can always look back on my preschool days to feel the thrill once more. Post-preschool brought with it a new set of opportunities to engage demon mode. Enrolling in a Montessori school seemed to curb the potential for my acting out, as I was free to roam about the classroom in curiosity instead of forced activity. However, for some reason, I still couldn't keep my green face from going red each and every day. I still pushed my young friends out of the way for a good bag of chips or Chex Mix, and I still went up to random birthday parties at the park and got in line for cake even though I knew nobody there. Around this awkward, angsty transition phase between preschool and kindergarten, I began to find external outlets for my pent-up insubordination in the form of sports. With parents from countries heavily focused upon soccer, it was only natural that I picked up the sport for myself. Starting out at Javanon Juniors as a 5-year-old, I immediately fell in love. The thing is, though, I would randomly punt balls across the field and attempt drills of my own concoction literally all the time. More so, Coach Ali told me that if I was able to shoot a ball at the net around the field and break through it, he would buy me a car. As a now 6-year-old in pursuit of personal automotive transportation, this was more than enough of an incentive to increase my punting and shooting abilities. What he didn't realize is that I would develop a really, really powerful foot. As I grew up more, entered the competitive scene as a U8, and progressed through different coaches and practices, my attitude towards punting stayed the same. If any of you have been to Javanon, you would know about the geese that fly over the fields every day. Much to my own influence, oftentimes our whole team would try and punt our balls up as high as possible and attempt to hit one of these 4 geese. Most people couldn't get close, but then again, I wasn't most people. I ended up hitting one of these geese and screamed in delight as it fell from the air. That was undoubtedly the highlight of my soccer career. Coupled with the time I punted a ball at this little girl's head and ran away in glee for the epic prank, it's clear the extent to which soccer connected with my annoying little self. As many of you know, I am a swimmer, or at least was until a few days ago. I've been fish boy since around the same time I began soccer, so this duality of existence showcases the amount of energy I had to give. And just like soccer, I was an annoying little swimming nightmare. I would try and splash my coaches as much as possible throughout practices, while simultaneously ignoring the sets they were directing. My friends and I would see who could scream the loudest, myself often winning in spectacular fashion. Prior to races, I would scout out my competition in their team areas, look them dead in the eyes, and draw my finger across my throat in a threatening fashion, hoping to frighten these chumps out of competition with my large round head. But no act of swimming disobedience can compare to the day in which I inspired a locker room rebellion that ended up costing the poor pool maintenance crew 7.5 hours of strenuous cleanup. You see, the pool showers had these large body soap dispensers which could be cracked open with a bit of blunt force. Naturally, I punched one of these dispensers as hard as I could one day and revealed the jug of soap that lay resting within. And again, as any reasonable child would, I grabbed this jug and began to fling thick drabs of soap everywhere, literally everywhere. I encouraged my friends to unearth the other jugs, and around we went, leaving the shower area and drenching every stall, toilet, locker, sink, and mirror in at least a 2 to 3 inch layer of gel soap. It was sick. I left that day satisfied with my ability to bring my friends together in collective fun and had no intention of facing the consequences that lay in my destructive disposition. And guess what? I never had to. The next day, our whole team was questioned concerning the incident, and somehow my friends and I were never revealed. We reveled in the thrilling nature that came with constant paranoia and satisfaction in a job well done. In this satisfaction, we named ourselves the Soap-Slinging Slashers. And to this day, the soap-slinging slashers have yet to be slashed. People often comment upon how I've changed since my elementary and middle school days. I'd like to think I'm a bit more chill today compared to the days in which, as Sashi loves to bring up, I would fall to Mr. Haas's floor and thrash about in attempts to impress my secret girlfriend of the time, who now lives in Colorado. I've progressed from the times in which I would embody my role as Chip Bobby and harass the juicers of our grade. Elise, I'm still sorry for actually beaming you with a half-eaten grilled cheese at lunch. I just had to. All in all, what my controversial past has taught me over the past few years is that change is an inevitable aspect of one's growth and sense of understanding. And in this change, you're able to recognize your past in a new light, hopefully laugh at it, and grow closer to a more holistic version of yourself. So with that being said, embrace it. Thank you.